Ever wondered how a city can be born from a swamp and rise to become one of the most powerful places on earth? That's the story of London, a tale spanning 2,000 years, packed with drama, disaster, and incredible resilience. Today, we're peeling back the layers of this iconic city, from its marshy beginnings to the bustling metropolis we know. This isn't just a history lesson, it's the epic biography of London. So, grab a cuppa, and let's journey back in time. Our story begins around 43 AD. The Romans arrive in Britain, and they spot a strategic location on the River Thames, a marshy but promising patch of land. They build a settlement and a bridge, calling it Londinium. This wasn't a grand capital at first, but a crucial trading post. Its location was perfect for ships coming in from the continent, but its early life was far from peaceful. Just a few years later, in 60 AD, Queen Boudica of the Iceni tribe led a massive revolt against Roman rule. She and her army stormed Londinium, burning it to the ground. The Romans, however, were persistent. They returned, rebuilt the city, and this time, they fortified it with a massive defensive wall. The London Wall, parts of which you can still see today, enclosed an area that would define the city's boundaries for centuries to come, creating the blueprint for what we now call the City of London. For nearly 400 years, Londinium thrived as a Roman hub of commerce and administration. But empires don't last forever. By the early 5th century, the Roman Empire was crumbling, and its legions were recalled from Britain. London was left vulnerable. The city fell into a period of decline and was largely abandoned for a time. The Anglo-Saxons who began settling in the area preferred to live outside the old Roman walls, establishing a new settlement to the west called Londonwick in what is now the Covent Garden and Aldwych area. It was a bustling port, but it too faced threats. The Vikings began their raids, sailing up the Thames. In 842 and 851, their longships brought destruction, and Londonwick was sacked. It wasn't until Alfred the Great, King of Wessex, recaptured the area from the Vikings in 886 that London's fortunes truly began to turn again. Alfred recognized the strategic importance of the old Roman walls. He moved the population back inside them for protection, laying the foundations for the medieval city and restoring London's status as a major urban center. The year 1066 marks a pivotal moment in English history, and London was right at the center of it. William the Conqueror and his Norman army invaded England. After his victory at the Battle of Hastings, William marched on London to secure his new kingdom and intimidate the powerful London merchants. He began construction of a formidable stone fortress on the banks of the Thames. We know it today as the Tower of London. This imposing structure was a symbol of royal power and control. Over the next few centuries, London grew in wealth and influence. It became the de facto capital of England, a hub for trade, finance, and politics. Guilds were established, governing trades from goldsmiths to weavers, and the city's population swelled. Landmarks like the original St. Paul's Cathedral and London Bridge, a marvel of its time, packed with houses and shops, defined the medieval skyline. But this growth came with its own set of problems: overcrowding, poor sanitation, and the ever-present threat of disease. And that threat became a terrifying reality in the mid-14th century. The Black Death swept across Europe, and in 1348, it reached London. It was a catastrophe of unimaginable scale. The plague, spread by fleas on rats that thrived in the city's crowded and unsanitary conditions, wiped out at least a third of London's population, possibly even half. The city's graveyards overflowed, and new plague pits had to be dug to handle the dead. It was a devastating blow, but London, as it always does, endured. The city slowly recovered, its economy and social structure forever changed by the immense loss of life. Fast forward a couple of centuries to the Tudor and Stuart periods, and London was booming once more. It was the age of Shakespeare, and theaters like the Globe flourished on the South Bank, drawing huge crowds. The city was a vibrant, chaotic, and exciting place to be. But disaster was just around the corner, and it would come in a double blow. In 1665, the plague returned with a vengeance. The Great Plague of London was the last major outbreak of its kind in England. It claimed an estimated 100,000 lives, a quarter of the city's population. People fled in terror, and houses marked with a red cross were a grim sign of the infection within. The city was in a state of shock and grief. And then, just as it was beginning to recover, a second disaster struck. On a September night in 1666, a small fire started in a bakery on Pudding Lane. Fanned by a strong easterly wind and feeding on the tightly packed wooden houses, it quickly became an uncontrollable inferno. The Great Fire of London raged for 4 days. It destroyed over 13,000 homes, 87 churches, and most of the civic buildings, including St. Paul's Cathedral. The medieval city was reduced to ash and rubble. Miraculously, the death toll was relatively low, but the city was devastated. Yet, from these ashes, a new London began to rise. This was a turning point. The rebuilding effort offered a chance to modernize the city. While grand plans for a complete redesign were mostly rejected, new building regulations were put in place. Houses were now to be built of brick and stone, not wood, and streets were made wider. The great architect Sir Christopher Wren was tasked with rebuilding the city's churches, and his masterpiece was the magnificent new St. Paul's Cathedral, with its iconic dome that would dominate the London skyline for centuries. The 18th century saw London flourish as the heart of the burgeoning British Empire. Trade exploded, wealth poured in from across the globe, and the city expanded rapidly, with elegant Georgian squares and terraces being built in areas like Mayfair and Bloomsbury. It was the age of enlightenment, a center of art, science, and intellectual debate. The 19th century brought another seismic shift, the Industrial Revolution. London transformed into the world's largest and most populous city. Its docks were the busiest on the planet, and its factories churned out goods for a global market. But this progress had a dark side. The city became a place of stark contrasts. While immense wealth was on display in the West End, much of East London was plunged into poverty, with residents living in squalid, overcrowded slums. Charles Dickens vividly captured this world in his novels, yet it was also an era of incredible innovation. The Victorians were master builders and engineers. They tackled the city's sanitation crisis, the Great Stink of 1858, by constructing a revolutionary sewer system, designed by Joseph Bazalgette, which is still in use today. And in 1863, London gave the world a new form of transportation: the Underground Railway, the first of its kind, which would change city life forever. The 20th century tested London's resilience once again. During World War II, the city endured the Blitz, a relentless bombing campaign by the German Luftwaffe for 57 consecutive nights, and then periodically for months, bombs rained down, causing widespread destruction and loss of life. Londoners showed incredible courage, sheltering in underground stations and carrying on with their lives with a spirit of defiance. The city was scarred, but its spirit was unbroken. After the war, the rebuilding began, and London entered a new phase. It became a melting pot of cultures, as people from across the Commonwealth and around the world came to make the city their home. From the swinging 60s, when London was the global capital of fashion and music, to the financial boom of the 1980s, the city continued to reinvent itself. And that brings us to the London of today, a global city, a leader in finance, culture, technology, and education. It's a city of iconic landmarks, from the Tower of London to the Shard, a place where history and modernity exist side by side. Its story is one of constant change, of overcoming fire, plague, and war. It's a city built by Romans, shaped by Saxons and Normans, rebuilt by Wren, engineered by Victorians, and enriched by people from every corner of the globe. From a muddy Roman outpost to a sprawling metropolis of nearly 9 million people, London's 2,000-year journey is a powerful testament to the endurance and adaptability of a truly great city. What do you think is the most incredible chapter in London's history? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey through time, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about the world's greatest cities.